Hey guys, Ziomaro here. It's been a while since I've made any videos and I've been having a bit of an urge to make some videos in Overwatch, which is a game I've been playing a lot of recently. I'm going to get into doing some more tutorials soon because that's the main thing that I usually do. But today I wanted to talk about the meta game and how it affects ranked play. Now normally when people talk about the meta, what they normally mean is the professional meta. So for those of you who don't know what metagaming is, or you've heard the term or maybe misused it before, let me just read you the Wikipedia definition. Metagaming is any strategy, action, or method used in a game which transcends a prescribed rule set, uses external factors to affect the game, or goes beyond the supposed limits or environment set by the game. Another definition refers to the game universe outside of the game itself. In simple terms, it is the use of out-of-game information or resources to affect one's in-game decisions. So in terms of Overwatch, what this means in general is what strategy is the enemy team going to be running, what heroes are they going to be running, and what can you do to deal with what you predict they're going to do. So in the pro scene, what this normally means, I mean, in the tank meta, it was very easy because you knew that they were going to run 3 tanks, and to be honest, at the time it was so powerful that the best counter to 3 tanks was 3 tanks. Right now we have a much more interesting meta, so anyone who enjoys watching the pro games, it's a lot more interesting experience right now. But it kind of makes the meta game for the professionals a little more interesting and complicated as well, because not only do you have to know generally what's strong in the game, but you also need to know what your opponent likes to play. So for some teams, like if you were playing against Rogue, you kind of know what they're going to run. They're going to run 3 DPS, they're going to run a Winston, and then they're going to have Lucio and Ana or Lucio and Zenyatta. And if you know that, like obviously you've got to play to your strengths, but you know that they're going to do that, and that's the meta game right there. Like you know that that's what they're going to do. How are you going to deal with it? So that's how the pro meta works. But honestly, the pro meta, as many people have said before, but have never really, to my knowledge, have never really gone into any real detail about how it affects other people. But it's kind of common knowledge that the pro meta does not affect solo queue, and it doesn't. But how does it not affect it, and how does the meta game affect you when you're solo queuing? First of all, your rank is going to affect how the meta works for you. The meta at Grandmaster and top 500 is going to be drastically different from bronze and silver. Because let's face it, what the pros are doing, what top 500 players are doing, it doesn't matter to you if you're in bronze or silver. Like what matters is what are your bronze and silver opponents going to do. And there are some heroes you see a lot more of or a lot less of in different ranks. So, for example, I play mid to high Masters, and I have been pretty much this whole season so far. And something that actually affects lower ranks a bit more, and I do have an alt account for practicing stuff that's sitting in Diamond at the moment, and it's something that's quite noticeable when I switch between the accounts, is on maps like Hanamura, Eichenwald, and stuff like that, where there's a very defined choke. There's only really one entrance for anyone who doesn't have vertical mobility. People have a lot of trouble with stuff like Mei, Torbjorn, Symmetra, and you'll sometimes get games where the attacking team will literally just stand at the choke, poking all game. Nothing will happen. The tanks will be blaming the DPS. How many times do you see people saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for you to get a pick," and the tanks are just standing there, not really making any space for the DPS. But that's a different problem altogether. But that is ranked meta, particularly in Diamond and below, and it happens in Masters and above as well. Like, don't get me wrong, but I definitely find in Masters having the defenders do a full hold on Eichenwald first point is extremely rare compared to Diamond and below. And that's what meta in solo queue is all about. What is your opponent going to do? What are your teammates going to do? Because you don't have any control over them either. And what can you do to help that situation? What is going to help you win the game? Now, I don't want to get too much into specifics because this video isn't really a tutorial. It's more an explanation of what metagaming is and how it affects you and to just knock this how does the pro meta affect me discussion on the head a little bit. So let's quickly take this unbreakable choke example. It's a pretty good example because it shows quite a stark difference between the pro meta and the solo queue ranked meta. In solo queue games, you'll quite often see a Mei walling off the choke every time someone comes through to try and split off the team. And it really messes with uncoordinated teams. Like, unless all 6 people are on the same page, which is pretty rare in solo queue, it's kind of difficult to do anything about it. And pros don't, like, that's not really a feature of the pro meta, because if a Mei's going to do that, then that actually puts the defending team at a bit of a disadvantage because they're very vulnerable to dive comps if that's how they're going to play it. But that is quite a prominent feature of solo queue meta, Mei's walling off choke points. So as I said, I'm not going to get too much into specifics, but there's 2 ways that you can deal with this unbreakable choke in solo queue as an individual. One is to play a character that can get picks, like Widowmaker, Hanzo, Roadhog, or you can run a comp that just breaks the choke faster. So again, Roadhog, Soldier is a good one. Reaper, maybe surprisingly to some of you, is a good one. He breaks shields extremely fast. So if you just want to win the shield war and quickly burn down their Reinhardt as your first pick, Reaper's actually a pretty good pick for that. I remember in Season 3, when I first started playing on my alt account, I started out in gold, and the way that I climbed out of gold was playing a lot of Reaper, just burning through the choke. So even though you either go for the pick strategy or the shield burning strategy, you still need a shield. So if you're Reinhardt, don't switch from Reinhardt. If you're a healer, don't switch from a healer. Like you still need those. Like, you're not going to succeed without them. Another current feature in the ranked solo queue meta is Farah Mercy. I'm sure all of you have seen that. In fact, if I had to say what my main character was, I would say Farah this season, because she is really strong and Mercy's really strong too. And this is a slightly smaller difference between the pro and solo queue meta, because you do see Farah and Mercy in pro games, and it does work in pro games as well, but the way they deal with it is very different. The Korean pro teams in particular have an interesting way of dealing with Farah. If you haven't seen much of the Korean pro games, 2 staples of their meta game is actually Winston and D.Va. Like, it's pretty common to see them run those 2 as their 2 tanks. So instantly they've got a kind of an answer to Farah. Like, that D.Va is one of the only things in the game that can fully eat Farah's ultimate. So having a direct damage dealing answer to Farah really does depend on the map. And when you're playing with a 6 stack, you can decide how are you going to deal with it. If you're on King of the Hill, you don't necessarily need to have something that can kill Farah, but you need to have a strategy. So one of the things Farah is weak against is defending her team against dive comps. So if you've got Winston, Genji, Tracer, you haven't got anything that can directly kill the Farah in there, easily at least, but you can dive onto their Ana and their Lucio, and Farah can't do anything about it, and you could get 2 kills before Farah even does 1 bit of damage. So there's your answer. Like, you've already turned a 6v6 into a 6v4, and then it's just a cleanup from there. And this is actually true in solo queue as well, but I wouldn't recommend saying this to your team, because everybody knows that tilting and trolling is actually part of the meta too. So if your team demands a soldier, you know, if you're one of the DPS, maybe you should switch to soldier just to keep them happy. However, if you're playing defense on anything that isn't King of the Hill, you kind of do need a DPS answer to Farah, because you can't just have her flying around doing whatever she wants. Like, you need to kill her. And that actually leads me to a very funny little quirk that I like to exploit in the solo queue meta, which is people over-answering a Farah. So if you're playing Farah, they're having trouble dealing with you, and they switch to Ana, Zen, Soldier, McCree, and then you've still got your Reinhardt and Roadhog or whatever. The enemy team literally has nothing with vertical mobility. So you have, as Farah, complete control over the high ground. You can boop them off. You can do whatever you want. Like, you don't even have to kill them. Like, if I see them do that and they're trying to hold the high ground, I literally just boop them off and let my team deal with them. Even if I get killed as Farah when they're running this strategy, I will literally just die once and I'll switch to Winston. Again, something with vertical mobility, something that can control the high ground. I can get up there and there's like 4 squishies on the high ground who have to run away from your Tesla cannon, and most likely what they're going to do is jump off the high ground. Instantly, you as the attacking team or whatever has high ground control, which puts you at a massive advantage. And that's actually one of the reasons why I actually like seeing double hit scan when I'm playing Farah. Like, I know that, well, first of all, you know you've got under their skin, you know that you've annoyed them, and they've unknowingly put themselves into another difficult situation that you can then exploit. I could go on and on all day of more examples of solo queue meta quirks and how to exploit them, but maybe I'll leave that for another video. If there's anything interesting that you'd like to share of how you exploit the meta, I've just let you into one of my secrets of how I play Farah and how I like to tilt the enemy team. So let me know what you do if you're willing to let us know your secrets. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll be doing some more videos over the next few weeks. If you've enjoyed the video, then don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching and cheers.